Munich. The list is endless. And Kai Havertz is a worker, but he's not a finisher. They need... if they go on and win the league this year, I hold my hands up and say I've been proven wrong.
Welcome to Emirates HQ Pulse. Dive into the heart of Arsenal FC with us as we bring you the latest news.
Constant conversation around having a true nine. Is there a better example than these two games, specifically today, when you look across the field and you see a guy like Isak doing what he's doing, you look at your guy not doing what he's doing. The only takeaway you can have from this is your Arsenal is we need that guy or something like it, right?
Well, there's been talk of Alexander Isak to Arsenal for some time that they've been interested.
But that's the difference in this series.
Yeah, without question, that's been the difference between the two. As Craig mentioned it, Arsenal no guile, and he's absolutely right. There was outside of the Odegaard chance, there was absolutely no threat other than from set pieces, and we've been saying that about Arsenal and their set pieces at least for the last couple of seasons. Other than that, absolutely nothing to offer. On the other side of that coin, you look up the other end, you've got Alexander Isak, who's running in behind defenses, a defense that wants to play a high line, can't cope with the space. But then Alexander Isak leading the line allows Murphy, allows Gordon, who are also both quick, to stretch Arsenal defensively. While Arsenal can boast very good wingers, they don't have that out-and-out centre forward to spearhead that attack, to offer that kind of support to the wingers or create that kind of room for the wingers. So as a result, it just becomes very easy. Newcastle go three at the back, you line up against their front three, knowing full well that they're not going to expose you, and they didn't.
There is a school of thought that he likes a sort of false number 9. That's not my... it wasn't me that said that.
Well, that has to be the school of thought, right? That can be the only explanation for why you would continue to go down this road without a true number 9.
Well, what I would say is a manager he worked under, who up until recently was considered the best manager on the planet, certainly one of the most successful, and Pep Guardiola, won the Premier League with a false 9 and still went out and bought Erling Haaland because he felt he needed a striker to score goals. And that's it in a nutshell. It's not, you can dress it up with all the fancy words that you want and all the stats that you want and all the XG and all this and the pressing and all that. Most successful teams, look at Real Madrid. Gone for Mbappe, before that it was Karim Benzema. Lewandowski at Barca, Bayern Munich. The list is endless. And Kai Havertz is a worker, but he's not a finisher. They need... if they go on and win the league this year, I hold my hands up and say I've been proven wrong, right? And I will. But it doesn't look likely, and ultimately, this performance tonight wasn't about Kai Havertz or anybody else. But this is a sorry, Frank. This is a sort of more rounded discussion about their issues. Now they've just bundled themselves out of two cup competitions.
Their best two chances at the trophy this year, let's be honest.
And put some sort of wishy-washy offer in that Aston Villa were always going to turn down for Ollie Watkins. Which makes you think, did they ever really try and buy a striker when they offered, I think, 60 million? So I think they realised they've made a complete balls up here of the recruitment in this position in the summer. And in January is not really the time, although Man City have spent a lot of money, it's not really the time to be the most productive at spending maybe 80 or 100 million because most of the top players are in the top competitions at top clubs and they probably won't move. And so there is a situation here now that we all said in the summer pretty much that to challenge, we thought it would be Man City this year, but it turns out it's Liverpool. For Arsenal to challenge, they would need to address that area.
Yeah.
They did not, and currently as we speak, that's one of the departments in the team that is costing them.
Frank, it's not going to be the Carabao Cup, obviously. It's not going to be the FA Cup. I guess it could be the Champions League. I guess it could be the Premier League in a long shot scenario. But as a squad is presently constructed, without that number 9, do you see Arsenal winning anything?
It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard because I think the fact that they don't have a number 9 and the fact that Mikel Arteta still think that kind of football can bring him to the top. As we see Guardiola not being successful right now, make me think that the way he wants to, in a stubborn way, carry on, getting the possession, trying to go around and everything, is out of fashion. In a way that football evolves in a certain way almost every decade, and if it was the way to be successful, playing with a fake false number 9 and getting the ball in the possession, it doesn't work anymore. And today Newcastle proved that they went back to the old-fashioned way, more vertical. It's proved by Liverpool as well. Even if they are strong defensively, when they attack, they go vertical. They don't wander too much. They don't wait for the perfect pass. They go for it. And every team which play like that have more success nowadays than they used to have 10 years ago when Pep Guardiola created that kind of tiki-taka. Mikel Arteta was under him, and he tries to copy in a way that. And I thought that he will change a little bit because he was very strong defensively. I thought he would be more vertical, but he goes to that tiki-taka way of playing, not having a striker, and I think he's going the wrong way. So I don't see why he would be successful in the upper level, which are the Champions League and the Premier League.
That being said, talking about their deficiencies at times going forward, in the 2 games against Newcastle, they haven't defended well. They've struggled. They have.
How much of that is down to the fact they're going up against a guy they don't have in an Isak? I mean, he's the difference maker.
Newcastle could have had 4 or 5 tonight. Yeah, there was a couple of mistakes, one from Saliba that Anthony Gordon should have scored and didn't. But quite often Newcastle cut them open at times. So they haven't defended well, which has been a strong part of their side. But they haven't defended well or well enough in these 2 games. You lose 4 goals. You haven't, and you've got one of the strongest defences probably in Europe. Then they've either done something brilliant or you've not defended particularly well, and I think it's the latter.
What do you think, Shaka?
Oh, without question. Listen, we can mount a lot of criticism at Arsenal today, and rightly so. But I again will kind of stick on the positives around Newcastle and the performance today and the individual performances. And again, you compare Newcastle's run into this game with Arsenal's. Arsenal should have been in the ascendancy, and they couldn't look any more flat. Newcastle couldn't look any better. And I think that again kind of speaks to Arsenal and maybe celebrating is maybe the wrong term, given what happened on the weekend, but also failing to address their needs. Whereas Newcastle just kind of understood the assignment and wanted it more.
If we go another few months and there is no trophy for Arsenal, there is no Premier League, there is no Champions League, what kind of pressure do you think that puts on Arteta?
Well, it puts more pressure on him. I don't think
I mean, how many years can you go without a trophy at a club like Arsenal? I mean, FA Cup in, 2020? At a big club like that, you're spending almost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Whatever happens, the board have to open the checkbook and sign a striker. They absolutely have to, whatever it takes. I don't think Arsenal get over that line. And yes, you could go on a FA Cup run, you could go on a Carabao Cup run, as they did this time around. But if we are talking about a team winning the Premier League or the Champions League, they have to spend. They have to address that need.
It's not just trophies, though. It's being in the hunt to have a chance, particularly in the Premier League, right to the death. You know, they have to be in the fight. They can't afford to be finishing a season 12, 15 points behind Liverpool.
Would you back them to get back into the race this year?
Well,
I don't know how you could.
I don't think it's over because I think, Liverpool would have to keep this sort of tremendous games and points ratio going.
What in Arsenal makes you think they could catch Liverpool? We've just talked about talked about their attack not being good enough, and now you're talking about their defense.
No. The defence is good enough. It didn't.
Not a bad day.
Didn't defend particularly well for 2 games, or maybe one game certainly at St James's Park. What makes me think there is possibilities of Arsenal getting back in the title is Liverpool. Mm-hmm. If Liverpool, is there going to be? My question is there going to be a drop-off for Liverpool?
My question would be: is Arsenal capable of taking advantage of that?
That is the big question. If Liverpool continue their form of the first half and a wee bit of the season, they will win the league. But it's never quite that simple. And if Liverpool hit a rocky path, then Arsenal need to make sure they're there. They're grinding results out, whichever way they can, to put pressure on. When you're asking if it's looking good or bad on the manager, if Liverpool slip up and Arsenal are still miles behind, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. And you can only do that for so long. You can't go every season. You know, so if they don't win the league this year, they don't win the Champions League, and Liverpool win it at a canter, and the same thing happens next year, and it might be Man City, it might be Liverpool, whoever it is, and Arsenal are off the pace. By the end of next season, if that's still the same scenario and there's no success, that's a different ballgame for Mikel Arteta altogether. A completely different ballgame.
Two things as regards that. One, it's easier to chase than it is to lead. I think there's a lot of pressure on Liverpool in the second half of the season. We'll see how they stand up to that pressure. And two, Arsenal have shown that they are very good second half of the season. The trouble is, last 2 seasons, Manchester City have just been better. But if you look at their running, if you look at the second half, end of January through the end of the season, mid-May or whatever it is, they have actually been very good. The trouble is, City were just so much better. And that was the difference between Arsenal closing out and winning the title and City pipping them to the post as they did. If Arsenal could put together that kind of run that we've seen, and Liverpool, we're not sure how strong they'll be. We don't have that same body of evidence. It's a long way from over here. And if you're sitting in that Arsenal dressing room, you've got to know that.
Frank, final thought on this to you. You agree with the boys? A long way from over?
Yeah, it's still a long way to make a statement and to already know if Arsenal will be capable of chasing and maybe winning the Premier League, or if Liverpool is going to be outstanding until the end of the season. I think we saw Liverpool dropping points, but Arsenal didn't take advantage of it. So it's going to be very interesting until the end. I mean, last year, I think they lost the title because they lost Saliba, I think, and or it was 2 years ago. But it was because they missed one guy and one important guy at the back. So yeah, I think it's always like that with the Premier League. You always have a surprise. You always don't know what's going to happen. It's the beauty of that championship, and I'm really impatient to know how those two teams going to handle.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting updates.